Hey guys, Retired at 40. It's been a while since I've done a freeze dryer video, so my apologies for that. But today we're going to talk about one of the most important accessories that you can get for your freeze dryer, and then we're going to put it to the test by doing a cycle. So the most important thing you can do for your freeze dryer is give it some good oil. And I've tried quite a few different types of vacuum pump oil, and I've finally found the one that does a night and day difference in my opinion. It's a little bit harder to find. Some Tractor Supply places will carry it, but it's called Dairyland oil. And it's actually meant for milking pumps, milking vacuum pumps. So a lot of the places you find it are Tractor Supply places. True Value carries it sometimes, or you can order it from Amazon or other internet retailers. I actually ordered this from Amazon because my Tractor Supply place that's close to me did not carry it, surprisingly. So I'll put a link to where I got it from. So what makes this vacuum pump oil different than from any other vacuum pump oil? There's a couple different things. It has some additives in it that will actually lubricate the internals of the pump, and especially if you have the older pump, then you know that it is very prone to just building up that crud inside of it. It also has some anti-foam additives in it, which I don't really know that pertains a whole lot to the harvest right situation, but there are oxidation inhibitors in it, and it also has corrosion protection, which is also very important for the older pump, and I would assume the newer pump also, because anytime you're getting water mixed in with things that are steel, they're going to rust. It's just a matter of time. So since I started using this type of oil, I've noticed that the inside of my vacuum pump stays a lot more clean. A few months back, or several months back, I made a video on how to clean the pump. I still have the old pump because I'm kind of just waiting for it to die so I can get the newer one. But if you remember, the inside of my pump was completely filthy. I was using black gold oil at the time, and I've used a handful of other things that are very similar to that type of oil, but as soon as I started using this oil, the inside was way more clean because it would actually, it wouldn't allow all that gunk to build up inside of it. So I want to show you a couple differences between this oil, and then I'm going to show you the results that I get with my typical oil that I use, the black gold, and the difference that it makes when you're using the Dairyland. Alright, so here's some of my old oil, and I'll go ahead and drain my last batch. You can see there's a lot of water in it, and usually you've got lots of crud. It goes from kind of a light oil color to just a real dark oil with a bunch of junk in it. You can see all the sediment down here at the bottom. You can see the water kind of separating away from the oil. While this last batch finishes draining, I'm going to go upstairs and load up my trays with vegetable broth. I've never done vegetable broth before. I'm going to use that for my experiment here. And we're going to load it up with the Dairyland oil and see what kind of difference it makes in a complete cycle. Alright, so we make this homemade vegetable stock. We just save our vegetable scraps pretty much. And we make this vegetable stock, but the problem is it doesn't keep very long. And you can freeze it, but I figured if you can freeze it, you could also freeze dry it. Alright, I'm going to go stick these in the deep freeze so I can get them frozen. And like usual, I like to make my life difficult, so I could have just filled them up in the deep freezer, but I don't know. Don't try this at home. Put the tray in and then fill it up, so you don't spill it everywhere like I do. Alright, 4 trays of vegetable stock. Let's go downstairs and fill up the vacuum pump. Alright, it looks like our vacuum pump is completely drained. We got this nasty oil out of here. Now let's put the good stuff in. So the first difference that you will notice is that it's blue. and it almost looks like laundry detergent. And this one that I bought, I'm not sure if they sell different sizes. The one I always buy is the 1 gallon. That gets you a whole lot of usage. You can still recycle the oil, still filter it, and really, depending on how much you use it, should last you a month or 2 or even 3. Okay, so you can see that it's blue now instead of your typical oil color, but you can see all this crud that has gathered at the bottom of the window. I'm sure that everyone has this problem. And to be fair, this first cycle with the new oil will probably actually just clean a lot of that junk out, but time will tell here. In the meantime, we're going to wait for our trays to freeze, and then we'll get a cycle going. I also want to give a shout out to the viewers and the community because they are the ones who helped me discover this oil. I would still be using the black gold or JB vacuum pump oil. And it's little tips and tricks like this that help the entire freeze drying community benefit. So with that said, if you ever have any tips and tricks, feel free to leave a comment for me. If you need help with anything, let me know. Take a moment to subscribe to the channel. We do some freeze drying and food preservation. We do some cooking, some gardening, and you get to join me and my family on our retirement at the age of 40. And if you find the videos helpful, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Okay, our trays are frozen. I'm gonna get our pre-freeze going. And I'm gonna do 9 hours of final dry. We might end up needing more than that just because that's pretty much a pure liquid form. And we're gonna do pre-frozen, and in half an hour I'm gonna go grab the trays. Alright, we'll see you guys in a while. We'll see if this oil makes a difference. Alright, I had some time last night when I went to bed, so this should be plenty done. Alright, I'm going to run this vegetable broth upstairs so we can check it out later, but right now I'm going to drain the oil out of the pump and I want to see what it looks like. It's kind of hard to see now because it's already a little bit full, but you can definitely tell that it cleaned out a lot of the crap that was already in there, and now it's at the bottom. Alright, the vegetable broth turned out exactly how you want it. It's super dry. Obviously there's not going to be much left after you take the water out of it, but if you think about what you buy in the store, it only takes about a teaspoon to make a cup or so. This was the equivalent of an entire pitcher full of vegetable broth. This is going to work great. Just need to scrape this all in, put it into a jar, and you've got vegetable broth whenever you need it. No question in my mind, this will rehydrate absolutely perfect, just the way you want it to be. It's got that right consistency. So if you want to make homemade vegetable broth, it's really easy. We actually just take our scraps that we use from dinner or whatever. You don't want to put anything into it that's going to make it bitter. So don't put any asparagus, don't put any Brussels sprouts. Things like that. The stuff that we usually save, we do carrots, celery, we do onions, garlic, things that are really going to make the flavor pop out. So we just throw them all into a bag and then throw the Ziploc bag into the freezer. You want about 5 cups of scraps before you start it, and then you just boil it in 9 cups of water. So put your 9 cups of water and your 5 cups of scraps in, and then you just want to boil it on medium heat for about an hour to get all the flavor out of it. And then you're ready to go. What I'm really interested in is to see what the inside of the pump looks like even after 1 cycle, to see how the oil looks and if it built up any crud in there. These are the kind of things that I'm willing to do for the greater good of the freeze-dried community. Alright, let's get this thing opened up and see what it looks like inside. You need a 3/16 Allen key, and you just need to pop all these screws loose. So here's the interesting part. Usually when I do this, all this crud is kind of all over the place, and it's already cleaned all of that stuff off, and sent it to the bottom, so eventually that will just flush out when you do an oil change. And really the same thing on all the other pieces. Really impressed with this oil. This is after one 30-hour cycle. This stuff also comes out a lot easier. Usually you have to try pretty hard. You got to do some scraping and some other stuff to get it out of there. This stuff is just coming right off with a paper towel. Alright, well, I can't recommend the Dairyland enough. If it does this after one cycle, imagine what it will do if you just keep using it. It's going to keep your pump a lot cleaner than it normally does. Again, I'll put a link down below for the Amazon link. You can get it at some True Values. Some JSC tractor supply places carry it, and probably a handful of other places that are farm type stores. In the meantime, this is Retired at 40. Remember to live life simple. I'll catch you next week.